I'm Sharon Weingarten, and proud to have been the chair of the speakers program in the Rotary Mental Health Task Force. And today we have two speakers speaking on about really interesting topics. They come from Youth Services of Glenview. And brief introduction, Abraham Garcia, I see to my left, so I'll start there, is a bilingual therapist who works with adolescents. Abraham received his master's degree in counseling psychology with a concentration in Latinx mental health from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology and his bachelor's degree in psychology from BYU, Hawaii. He is first-generation Mexican-American and first-generation college graduate, becoming the first male in his father's side of his family to graduate from college. So welcome, Abraham. And Jess Levine, whom I'm wanting to call Jessica all the time, but I'll call Jess. Jess is a licensed clinical social worker. She received her MSW with a concentration in children and families from the Erickson Institute and her BA in comparative human development from the University of Chicago. In addition to working with individuals and families, Jess oversees the social skills program and facilitates workshops to youth and adults through the SHARE program. She provides services in English and in Spanish. And Abraham and Jess are going to talk about, we had a little preliminary, just informal discussion waiting to go on, about the phrase we used was the times today, and we were speaking literally about the times today, what's going on in our country. So without further ado, Abraham and Jess, take it away.
All right, so thank you. Let me just pull this up as a presentation.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. I'm guessing everybody can see. So yeah, so we Jess and I work at Youth Services of Glenview, Northbrook, and we're happy to be here.
Abraham, we still see it, or at least I do, as it's not full screen yet.
Not full screen. Is that true for everybody?
Well, while you're getting that,
Would that work better like that? Is that okay?
I lost my whole thing, so I am coming back. All right, it took we need there we go. Yes,
Yes.
perfect. Now you've got half screen and there you go. You're good.
All
So
right.
Abraham, proceed.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, so we Youth Services of Glenview, Northbrook. And here is just one of our first slides. We just kind of wanted to share a little bit into the different programs that we do at Youth Services. We do youth development, different styles of programs, after school groups, which we work in different neighborhoods within the city of Glenview. And then we also provide academic support, something called Study Buddies once a week. We have a Pride Youth program that we also do at our agency and different groups within that. We do our individual counseling with clients at Youth Services, and we also have a social skills group that ages range from little of like I think 3-year-olds, which is kind of a new group, all the way to high school age. And lastly, we do like we're doing today, we do outreaches and educational facilitations as well. And last, we do crisis intervention. So any support for any style crisis that we work with different schools within our area. And I think Jess was going to share a little bit of who we serve.
Yeah. So we have a pretty diverse client population among all of those programs that Abraham just spoke about. So these are some numbers from our last fiscal year. So about half of our clients are or program participants are Latine, about 9% identify as Asian, about 5% are African American. Many of our clients and program participants are bilingual. So we see many young people who are Spanish and English bilingual. And I'd say our second largest population of bilingual young people speak Mongolian and English. So oftentimes in the home, they're speaking Spanish or Mongolian or another language. And then at school, some of them receive bilingual support and some of them are in English only spaces. We serve a large population of LGBTQ young people, both through our Pride program, but also because we have a Pride program, LGBTQ young people know that it's an affirming space to come for therapy or other services. Similarly, because we have a social skills program, we also see a number of neurodivergent youth, so young people who learn differently, kind of move through the world differently, both within groups, but also for individual services. And in general, a number of the families that we serve would sort of be categorized as under-resourced in terms of where they live or the amount of resources that families have in terms of income and job opportunities. And so because our agency has a mission of serving families regardless of their ability to pay, they know that they can come here and get high quality services regardless of their financial situation.
So we're going to be talking about two different challenges that our youth are happening. I'll be talking a little bit about our Latina youth and family, those challenges that they are facing. And first want to just talk about those first generation youth and families, specifically some of the challenges they're facing within immigration barriers. A lot of our kids are coming in with kind of a change of routine, a change of family routine that we're used to than what they're doing now. So some of the examples are just getting places. If parents are typically taking them to sports activities, to school, to our agency for therapeutic support, or any extracurricular activities that they might be doing outside, they're being a lot more cautious now. So parents are missing their sports games, practices, or more than anything, kids are just kind of traveling, with a different adult, or they're just kind of like trying to find a different way of getting places. So it's a lot more cautious on their daily routine, even like groceries, or, other daily routine activities that they were used to doing now that they're unable to do, or at least they're very cautious about it. So as well as language barriers, a very common thing is a child might be the parent's interpreter, right? So either that is at a doctor's office, at school, or paperwork. A child might be the one trying to support the parent on what to say or what to do, or translating, in other words, whenever needed, if a parent is unable to speak more than anything like English or of any of that. So another, we have families that are coming from other countries. So that looks like sometimes it's individually they're coming on their own, or they're coming with or they're arriving to specific location where they have a family, but family support is very low. I have a client, who the mother doesn't have any family members except for one cousin, right? Or other clients who don't have any family members here, and the rest of the family members live back in their home country. So support family-wise is a bit more challenging. So that equals to, child support, nannying, babysitting, if they're working excessive hours, right? Like how to manage those challenges within like helping their kid with school, and getting them to specific areas because they're working two jobs. So that's another challenge within that. They don't have an extra support, and they might be asking neighbors or friends if feeling comfortable. And just unfamiliarity within the school system. I think just being able to understand the different cultural challenges within home country and school system there compared to the school system when they come here, and how that works, and providing that support within that and understanding how it works, and sometimes like unable to guide a specific like academic support, or managing how to, if they want to go to college, and how that works, and how to work the system so they can support their child on making sure they have all the credits and all this stuff. So that is a very challenge, specifically if a parent is non-college, which the majority are. So they're just unaware of how to support their child within that. And the mental health system as well. A lot of them might face just on experience within the mental health system and unsure on how that works, or even like the stigma between being in mental health and what that actually means, and seeing it kind of as a bad thing sometimes, right? So that could be a barrier as well. And then also just limited job access. And that could represent the language barrier and the jobs they could potentially get, educational barriers, and what type of jobs they can get with the minimum education they might have, or just like transportation wise and how to get places. So they might be looking for somewhere a lot closer because they're faced with any transportation issues. So just job access, it's a very challenge as well.
Thank you, Abraham. So another population that we serve a lot at Youth Services, again, are LGBTQ young people. So some of those specific challenges that we see when they're coming in for individual services or they're joining our Pride Youth program, they might be experiencing peer relationship difficulties. So peers not being kind or not really understanding what it means to be LGBTQ, how to approach somebody with kindness and respect. Often young people might experience distress around exploring their identity in some way, fear of judgment, fear of bullying, family acceptance. For our trans and gender nonconforming young people, they might experience gender dysphoria, so feeling uncomfortable in their body and kind of how their gender is presented, and maybe feeling like they don't have access to what they need in order to feel more comfortable. Sometimes our LGBTQ young people are experiencing family conflict around their identity. Oftentimes, if they're coming into services, if their family already knows about their identity, there's usually at least one caregiver who is, more accepting. Sometimes it's the whole family. Sometimes there's tension around it. And I think many of our LGBTQ young people right now, especially our middle schoolers and high schoolers, are sort of aware of the climate around wanting to kind of limit young people's access to gender affirming care, or, having a space that feels accepting and affirming for them. So these are kind of common stressors that we see in the mental health field when serving LGBTQ youth. And Sharon let us know that she anticipated a lot of desire for conversation and questions, so we wanted to leave the second half for folks to ask questions about how we are supporting the youth in these populations, or if you had any questions about what we shared in terms of stressors.
Well, I'll be the first hand to go up. In the use of we, remind us or acquaint us a little bit more about Youth Services of Glenview, Northbrook, where you're located. Do you only serve kids from Glenview and Northbrook? Tell us just a little bit generically about your agency.
Sure, absolutely. So we are located in Glenview, basically down the street from um,
The Glen.
GBS and the Glen, between Glenbrook South and the Glen. So in Glenview, but we are not limited to serving only Glenview and Northbrook young people. I would say we probably have the strongest community partnerships with the schools in Glenview and Northbrook, but we also see several students from Maine and Niles Township, New Trier Township. Our Pride Youth program tends to be a little bit further reaching, just because there are fewer um, agencies that specifically serve LGBTQ young people. So we will get folks as far south as the north side of Chicago, as far north as, Gurnee, Grays Lake. When you start going further west, there are some agencies out there. And for individual mental health services, we take private insurance, and then we also have a sliding scale for families who do not have private insurance.
I mentioned when we spoke, Jess and Abraham and I had a bit of a tech trial run for a few minutes before we went on, and spoke just a little bit. And one thing I mentioned was I saw in the news today a house that looked a home that was in Highland Park. A single car in front of it was picking up a single individual, and I noticed in the background a child observing this. Can a child who's freaked out or scared or confused just walk into youth services or get a ride and say, oh my God, what's happening? And see someone for what I would assume would be a bit of a crisis intervention?
I would say it's not a super common occurrence for us to have that happen, mostly because they usually are at the very least at school before they
Sure.
come to us. But I would say if that were to happen, we would not turn the young person away. We would probably work with our intake coordinator, who also kind of fields all of our crisis intervention calls. And if there were caregivers to connect to, we would, attempt to connect to them. But I would say we work hard to try not to only do things ourselves, and really try to partner with other organizations as we see fit. And so if we were to find ourselves in that situation, I think we would also be reaching out to community partners to see kind of what the best course of action would be for that young person. Abraham, I would welcome you to add anything if you have additional thoughts.
No, I was gonna say I think the most important part is like how do we what is the best way to support this person if they're looking for a source of like comfort, if that could be us, youth services, or if a teacher at school or another family member and they're just struggling to take those steps. I think we're very, happy and willing to support that person, that youth, and finding those source of support. And if that means like, hey, we're gonna schedule for potential services at youth services, then that's also a process that I'm sure we'll be very happy to do. But I think Jess, you said it correctly, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, anything else, Jess, you'd like to add, or Abraham?
Well, I think right now what we're seeing is sort of issues that were already there, just kind of being exacerbated. So almost like the volume is turned up on stressors that were already there. And so that's, I would say, part of why we're leaning more heavily on collaboration with community partners, is we know that no one agency can hold all of this alone. And so whether that's working with legal aid clinics or seeing more clients in the schools, because as Abraham was speaking to the transportation piece, making sure that students can still receive services, but maybe we lower the vulnerability for their families by just going to see them in the school so they don't have to come to us at the agency. And I think we're continuing to show up as we have before and as we will after. And our main goal right now is that people know when they are in our building, they are safe and they are seen and they can show up as their whole selves and bring, all of the complexity of their experience to, whether that's therapy or an after school group or a pride group, and that they see the agency as an affirming, welcoming place.
Yeah,
And
and I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. Well, I was just going to also just add, I think the important piece of it is like the affirming piece and the willingness to like feel comfortable within not just the space but within the people. And I think when we do programs, more than anything, I work with the most of my programs I do and the groups I run are the Latina groups. So we have different age groups that I do within them. And I think a lot of the not a lot of it, but I think we have conversation when it comes to these things. Um, and we have programs that we go at school, right? So like the comfort level isn't always at youth services. I think it comes a lot from like the individual person, the adult. And then the space becomes a comfortable space, right? So if youth services has therapists and group leaders that are putting that like affirming space for them, that comfortable space, then that space in itself is going to become comfortable and affirming for them. So where I'm getting to is, when I go to middle schools and I run my 6th grade programs, right? We as clinicians, and we have interns as well that we go with, we create this space for them. So when they're coming in with wanting to learn more, or more than not wanting to learn more, but more than anything, wanting to just discuss and talk about these things, is that we provide that space for them so they can just share their feelings and their thoughts. And we are there to support them. And I think that is what means a lot to them. So in other words, like, we as human beings are trying to support them in the best way possible. And that tends to come with follow up with like the space, and they're feeling comfortable to wanting to bring that information to us and talk about it with us.
Absolutely.
Abraham, you anticipated my question. And that was when you talked about space. I'm familiar with your location. You're right on Lake Street near the Glenview Police Department, if I believe, just to the west. Maybe east, it's right near there. I was going to ask if you go to schools, and you let us know that you do, and you go to more than just, that was going to be my question, more than just Glenbrook South, which is down the street from you, and North, which is nearby, in Northbrook. So you go to other high schools, and then I did not know you go to middle schools as well, which is really, that was educational for me, that you do groups in middle schools.
Yeah. And also elementary. So our program, our cell program, is a Latina program where we kind of just create this space for them to kind of like an affinity group for them, and opportunity for them to have a space to either talk about these things, other things, and also more than anything, just transition between, from elementary to middle school, especially for our bilingual group who are taking bilingual school or classes in elementary age. And then they're shifting over to specifically only English classes in middle school. So we go to those 5th grade classes, and we kind of support with that transition. And then we go to Atia Middle School and Springman Middle Schools as well. But I know we have groups as well that we do at GBN, that we also support bilingual students there as well. I don't do that one. We have 2 other clinicians that do that one once a week. I also.
I, for one, am very glad to hear that. Are there any other questions or comments? Are there anything you guys would like to share personally about your work, about an experience you've had, anything? And I'm not trying to just do a time filler, but that's important.
I was thinking, I'm glad, first of all, Abraham, I'm really glad you shared about SAIL, because I think that's a really important program that has grown out of a partnership with District 34, and has really become important for all of our students who've gone through that group, so much so that we created a high school version of it this year that Abraham is also co-facilitating. I'm thinking about a client of mine who I see individually and is also a part of the Pride group, and also identifies as Latina. And just as an example of what our work is looking like right now, in order to be able to attend his Pride group now, we supported him in coordinating a carpool with another member of the group so that he would still be able to attend the group, because his parents are wanting to drive only for absolutely necessary things right now, and I'm providing transportation to and from therapy for him. And so I think it's those sort of small acts that continue to give young people access to spaces that they really need and benefit from.
Thank you. Well, we hit it just about exactly on the nose with the clock. If there are no further questions, I want to say thank you to both of you, and to Youth Services of Glenview Northbrook for providing the services that you do. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
for having us.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.